"We beg for your forgiveness, Ms. Nicholson." The rest of the Langfords followed suit and kneeled down on the floor. At the sight of that, Dahlia was stunned, and so was Dakota. Even Florence, who had been whining until a moment ago, stood there in a trance. They thought the Langfords were here to seek revenge. However, it had never occurred to the Nicholsons that the Langfords would behave so humbly all of a sudden. "Ms. Nicholson, I'm sorry. I thought too highly of myself. Please forgive me." When Lewis saw that Dahlia wasn't making any responses, he began to slap his face like he was crazy, even though his cheeks were already red and swollen. Despite the pain, he dared not stop. Half an hour ago, after finding out Dustin's true identity at the banquet hall, Lewis was frightened out of his wits. He thought he was doomed. Ethan even wanted to kick him out of the Langford family and cut ties with him. However, to everyone's surprise, Dustin was willing to let Lewis off the hook on the premise that Lewis had to ask for Dahlia's forgiveness. Lewis was, of course, happy with what Dustin said. Hence, he immediately rushed over to the Nicholson villa to apologize to Dahlia. As long as his life could be spared, he didn't mind swallowing his pride. "What is going on?" Dahlia raised her brows, at a loss as to what to do. A while ago, Lewis was still acting all high and mighty, having control over her life, and now he was kneeling before her. She found it hard to comprehend such a drastic change in character. "Am I seeing this wrongly?" Florence kept rubbing her eyes in disbelief, wondering if that was still the powerful aristocrat. When Dakota finally came to her senses, she immediately reached out her hands to help Lewis up. "What are you doing, Mr. Lewis? Get up quickly. They aren't worthy of having you kneel down to them. Out of my sight." However, instead of letting her touch him, Lewis slapped Dakota in the face so hard that she almost fell. If Dakota hadn't asked him to marry Dahlia, then he wouldn't have offended Dustin. "Mr. Lewis, why did you hit me?" Dakota asked aggrievedly as she cupped her cheek. "Shut up, or I'll rip out your tongue." After shooting a fierce glare at Dakota, Lewis continued to apologize to Dahlia. It was a complete change of attitude. Dakota bit the bullet and asked, "What happened exactly, Mr. Lewis? Why don't you get up first?" "It's okay. I'll continue kneeling. It's better this way." He then said to Dahlia, "Ms. Nicholson, I'm extremely remorseful for what I have done. Please give me a chance. I promise I'll never show up in front of you again. If you're still angry, I can cut off my finger to prove my sincerity." As he spoke, he took out a knife and cut his finger off directly. "Huh!" Dahlia was startled. She did not expect Lewis to cut his finger for real and be so cruel to himself. "If it's not enough, I'll cut off another one." Clenching his teeth, Lewis endured the severe pain and cut another of his fingers. With beads of sweat forming on his forehead, he asked, "Ms. Nicholson, has your anger dissipated? If it hasn't, I can continue cutting them." "Enough. It's enough."